What's going on, everybody? Welcome into today's edition of Jazz Nation Daily for Monday, June 26, 2023. My name is Daniel. I am the admin of all those Jazz Nation pages that you are following online through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the podcast, the YouTube page, the Patreon page. Maybe there's a MySpace page. Who knows? But you can find the links for all those pages in one simple spot. Just go to linktree.com/JazzNation News. Got to check the mic, make sure that I had that thing on there. That would suck if I'm just sitting here talking to myself and you guys can't hear me. Sorry, trying to get over the comments here. Man, it's been a lot of things gone on since last time we have chatted on the Daily Talk here. Obviously, I've been away for a couple of days. Apologize for that, but vacations, got to take them occasionally. The draft happened, and let's talk about the draft here first, shall we? I think by this point, most everybody knows, but let's go over it anyways. The Jazz leave the draft night with 3 new members of the team. At number 9, they went with forward Taylor Hendricks, 6'9" forward from UCF, 19 years old. Then with the 16th pick, they take a guard from Baylor, 6'4" guard, Keontae George, also 19 years old. It feels like everybody in this draft was 18 or 19, wasn't it? There's a couple. Well, everyone's 19 years old. And the surprise of the draft for me, of course, because I didn't think they were going to keep this pick, and I was wrong. They kept the pick, and they went with Bryce Sensabaugh with the 28th pick, 6'6" forward from The Ohio State, 19 years old. Gotta say, I was very surprised about they kept all 3 picks. I was extremely surprised by that last pick, though, just for the fact that there were some guys that were still available that I thought for sure were on the Jazz radar, specifically Leonard Miller. I mean, there had been mocks leading up to the draft day saying the Jazz could even take him at like 16. I mean, there was that. So the trip I went on, for those who don't know, I was in San Jose, California for a concert. I went to see the Blink-182 concert. And by the time it got to, I saw the 9th, 16th picks, but by the time it was getting around to the 20th pick, I was into the concert venue at that point and not paying so close attention to the draft. But I saw them make that pick, and I had to be honest. I was like, I don't know much of anything about this guy. Like, even when I was doing somewhat of a research and looking into people the Jazz might pick at 28, I didn't really see him there. So I was very surprised by it. Were you guys, anyone watching right now on the live stream and that are chatting with us? Thanks so much to those guys that are leaving comments right now in the chat. I see you guys there. Got a comment from Jason, Joshua, Jordan, and Chris. Thanks so much for leaving some comments here. But was anyone else surprised by that pick for the 28th? I mean, when I looked into it, I got to say for Bryce, I mean, there's some injury histories there. He didn't even finish playing, it looks like, in his college career because he was out with an injury. I mean, from what I can tell, there's some concerns about his weight. He's got to get on some better conditioning, hopefully. I just got to say, I was very surprised by that pick. And I just don't know. I guess I guess obviously it's not my, I trust Danny Ainge. I trust Justin Zanuck and the guys that they have on their, the scouting and the guys making the board and stuff like that. So we'll see. At 28, I do not have much expectations for that pick. Look, if I'm being 100% honest, to me, he has everything to prove. Like, I'm just gonna let him show me what you got. Let's be honest, he's probably gonna end up playing for the Stars in the G League at first, and he's gonna have to prove himself and show that he can get into NBA condition, and he will be a smart player and work his way up. So we'll see. I was just very, very surprised by that. Now, the Keontae George pick was not so surprised. There was a lot of chatter about the Jazz being into him. There was actually a lot of chatter that if the Jazz were into him, that they might have to move up a little bit to get to him, but they didn't have to. So that was, I guess that was a little surprising that they got him at 16. Taylor Hendricks at 9 was not a surprise at all. I think most of us saw that coming. A lot of Jazz fans were already saying that's our guy. So no surprise there. Some surprises of the draft came out, though. I think something we kind of heard about going into the draft and came out afterwards how much the Jazz were truly into the French guard, Bela Coulibaly. I know I say it wrong. I don't care. The Jazz were really into him, and apparently, I mean, from what I can tell from the readings and I've listened to so many freaking podcasts in the last couple of days after the draft. I'm trying to remember all the things I've heard from it, but I'm sure all of you that are listening right now have heard this stuff too. You guys are hardcore listening to this stuff, but the Jazz were, I guess other teams knew that the Jazz were so into Coulibaly that if he had been there at 9, they were going to take him. Honestly, if it would have been the French guy or Taylor Hendricks, I think the French guy was their number one pick, honestly. That's the vibe I'm getting. But I think Indiana kind of used that to their advantage because they knew that Washington were into him, and they said, hey, if you want him, you better make a trade with us and just let's switch here. So Indiana, gets the second round picks. I guess though, if the Jazz really wanted the French guy, though, the way I look at it is they probably could have traded up for him with Indiana, right? Like if Indiana's on the phone and they've got the Wizards offering them second round picks and the Jazz are on the other line offering them a future first, so you feel like they would take the first. But then it comes into they're going to switch and you're going to get the 9th pick. Indiana really wants Walker, though. Walker's probably not going to be there at 9, so that can make sense how that all worked out. So some moves there. The guys that I were into that didn't end up on the Jazz, Cason Wallace ends up. Who did he originally get drafted by? It was Dallas, right? But he's going to go to OKC Thunder. That means I get to see him next week at Salt Lake Summer League because the Thunder will be here for that. So excited to see him there and see how he does. Thunder. Look at those guys. I've got to tell you guys, that roster they have is pretty good. It's pretty young and talented there. And then, Cam Whitmore. All of you that have watched this or heard it in the podcast and things like that, I was very big on Cam Whitmore. I got to tell you, when he started sliding, I was like, oh, he's available for the Jazz at 9. He's available for the Jazz at 16. And then at that point, you got to be like, what the hell is going on here? Why is he falling so much? And it feels like there hasn't been much talked about it until today. Ryan Russillo on his podcast, if you don't know who that is, he's on the Ringer, Bill Simmons Ringer sports podcast stuff, but he's got his own podcast on there, and he's pretty well got some insights and sources in the NBA. And it came out through him that Cam Whitmore's knees are apparently worse than people thought, his injuries and things like that. And then there was some stuff about his college coach wasn't really talking about too much. That sounds terrible for the college. Let's be honest. I mean, that's just not a good sign, obviously, for him coming into the NBA. But if I'm a player picking a college and I hear the coach talking, not really helping his dude on the way out, that's kind of weird. I mean, I don't feel like I've ever heard something like that of you guys, but yeah, Cam Whitmore falls all the way down to the Rockets in the 20th range. Look, he's not on the Jazz. Obviously, I was high on him. I'll just say this. I hope it works out for him and it doesn't become like he gets in the league and then it just totally flops for him. I feel horrible for the dude that this happened to him. I mean, can you imagine if you were projected like a top 5 lottery pick this whole time and then all of a sudden like the week of the draft it comes in and then you fall that far? Oh man, that's gnarly. That's bad for him. Best of luck to Cam Whitmore. Except when you play the Jazz, of course. Hopefully things work out for him. So we've got 3 new players on the Jazz. If you haven't heard, by the way, and I don't know how you haven't heard because I've talked about it a lot on the pages, but I'll still say this. The rookies have their jersey numbers. Bryce Sensabaugh will wear jersey number 8 for the Jazz. Keontae George will wear jersey number 3. And Taylor Hendricks will wear jersey number 0 for the Utah Jazz. And a lot of you might at first were confused by that because Talen Horton-Tucker was jersey number 0 last season for the Jazz. But it came out after this info got released that Talen Horton-Tucker has decided to switch to jersey number 5 for the Jazz. Still undetermined at this moment. As of right now that we're live streaming this, recording this, there has not been a decision made by Talen Horton-Tucker if he is going to opt in or opt out of his contract. Him and Jordan Clarkson have till the end of this week to make a decision on that. We've said it like a million times. The most feel like Jordan Clarkson will be opting out of his contract. The Talen Horton-Tucker, I remember, at first it seemed like most, folks like a Tony Jones is pretty well in with the Jazz organization, things like that, and his sources and things like that. At first it seemed like he was saying a lot that Talen Horton-Tucker was staying, but in the the vibe has kind of gone more toward the middle. People are uncertain if he's staying or is he going to opt out. I personally, if me, and I have no inside sources. This is just me talking, my gut feelings, the vibes I'm getting, blah blah blah, things like that. I I I think obviously Jordan Clarkson's going to opt out because he's going to try and get that last big contract. He's in his 30s now. He's going to want some good money. He's going to want some length on that contract. Is it with the Jazz? That's hard to say. We'll get to the other news here shortly, but the Jazz don't have as much money available now as they did earlier today. So we'll see on that. The Talen Horton-Tucker situation, I would not be surprised, and I wonder if this is what they're maybe the camps are trying to talk with. And the camps, I mean, the camps and the Jazz camp, is to have him opt out, and then they work out a new contract for him. Because if he opts in with the Jazz, that means he's just here for a year, and then they'd have to figure out another contract for him. He could opt out, though, and then they could rework out some kind of new contract and give him maybe some more money and a longer length on the contract. So I could easily see that happening. The Clarkson situation is going to be, if I was a betting man, my gut feeling says he does not stay with the Jazz. I know he loves you. We all know he loves Utah. He loves the team. The team would love to have him back. Something just tells me it feels like he decides to go with another team that can be, and it's hard to tell. Is he going to go for more of the money situation, that he wants someone that's going to way overpay him? And I just don't see the Jazz overpaying for him at this point. I just don't. Or does he decide to go maybe for less money and even like a lower contract as far as the length, but goes to a contender team, right? He wants to try and chase the rim. I don't know if he does that, but I could definitely see him going to try and get paid somewhere. Look, he deserves it. If you look at his situation, when he came to Utah, he was a good player. But since his time in Utah, he's elevated his game, I feel like, to another level and has earned the right to be out there and try and earn some more money. So as a Jazz fan, I would hate to see him go. As just a person, though, I could totally understand his situation. I think if we're all put ourselves in that kind of situation, which is totally hard and to think about, try to decide which $1 million contract to sign and stuff, but which one is, if you can make more money for your family, that's always the best thing. I think most of us try and do that, right? So try and look at it from that side of the things with Jordan Clarkson. But again, Jordan Clarkson and Talen Horton-Tucker need to make decisions by the end of this week on that. There was another player that needed to make a decision on that as well, and that is one Rudy Gay. And I think 89.7% of us thought he was going to opt in and stay with the Jazz. Well, we were right that he was going to opt in and say, wait, or was he going to stay? He is going to opt into his contract. But there was some breaking news that came out today concerning Rudy Gay and someone else that's been tied to the Jazz, it feels like forever, and that is one John Collins from the Atlanta Hawks. So it came out so today, let's kind of make this a whole thing here. So today on Monday was actually supposed to be the day when the Jazz do a press conference and introduce the 3 new players of the team, the 3 draft picks, to the press and things like that, and do pictures and all that, yada, yada. And that was scheduled at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. So I would say 10, 15 minutes before that's supposed to start, bam, Woj bomb drops saying the Jazz are trading Rudy Gay and a second pick to the Hawks for John Collins. Safe to say that press conference did not start at noon. It didn't start, I think it delayed for almost a half hour or so. So anyways, so Rudy Gay, what is going to happen is he is going to opt into his contract. The deal will not officially take place till I believe July 6th. So Rudy will opt in and technically opt in to be with the Jazz. And at that point, the Jazz will trade him and that second round pick to Atlanta for John Collins. So I got to say, this is crazy, right? Like how crazy to think that, like, I remember just thinking, like, I've probably said it to many of you who have said, we've got to get rid of Rudy Gay. And I'm just like, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. I mean, he's going to opt in. Who's going to want to take him? Blah, 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 blah. And what happened is the Atlanta Hawks, they needed a salary dump. I mean, I'm not sure if some of you know or not, but there's this new collective bargaining agreement coming into the NBA that's going to make things difficult as far as having so many high-level, money contracts on a team and things like that. So the Hawks were just in one of the worst teams as far as the situations. And I think it was ESPN put out an article this morning talking about it as far as like tiers of teams. Tier 1 is teams that are in like some of the worst situations, and they've got to make changes to the teams like right away as far as trades and things like that. And Atlanta, they just really needed to do a salary dump. That's what it came down to. They had to they had to decide like what they were going to do, and what they decided to do is trade John Collins to the Jazz. And now when John Collins comes to the Jazz, he will actually be the highest salary contract on the team now. So that tells you how big of a contract he's on. And so the way it works is, let me pull this up so I have it exact. So yeah, he's going to be making more money than anybody on the team. But so he will be with the Jazz from 2023-24 season. So this season, the next season, he'll still be under contract. And then when we get to the 2025 to 2026 season, he'll have a player option. So kind of like Rudy Gay, Talen Horton-Tucker, and Jordan Clarkson right now, he'll have an option where he could opt in and stay at the Jazz at that point, or he could opt out and become a free agent. And then by 2026, he would be an unrestricted free agent. But so yeah, that's the deal. I mean, it's crazy. Does it sound like, right? Like, it feels like forever we've heard about John Collins possibly getting traded to the Jazz, stuff like that, and it's finally happened. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing when the trade happened. So I have my notifications on, like when Woj posts things, right, and get the notification to see it right away. But I was doing a post, I believe, on Instagram at the same time, so it kind of like muted the notifications. And I did my post, yada yada yada, and I'm going to do the post on Facebook and other places, and I come back to Instagram, and all of a sudden I have a message from somebody saying, "You see this trade?" And when I saw it at first, I was like, this can't be real. I didn't get a notification. What's going on here? And then I went and checked the actual Woj Twitter page, and there it was. And I felt so stupid. I was like, oh. But yeah, I mean, to all of you watching right now, leaving comments and stuff, thanks so much for you guys leaving comments and watching the live stream right now. What are your thoughts right now on this trade? I mean, for me, for the Jazz, obviously this is a home run when you can get a player like John Collins. I feel like last year for him on the Hawks, it was, he wasn't so good. The Hawks last year were kind of like, they felt like a hot mess of a team last year, if we're being honest. And it feels like this will be one of those things where he's going to come to the Jazz and probably feel like it's like a new refreshing thing for him, right? Like, finally I'm away from, he's been on like, it feels like every 6 months or so, he's always getting talked about getting traded and things like that. So now he can come into a new team, prove himself, say, look, guys, I'm still just as good as I was 2 years ago when you guys all thought I was so amazing, right? So I think it's a great trade for the Jazz, obviously, and for the Hawks, they just had to do it. Let's take a quick question here and go over this one. I think it's an interesting question. I've seen this a lot today. Benjamin left this comment here saying, how is Hendricks going to get minutes? So let's talk about that, because I've seen a lot of people mentioning about how Hendricks was going to start. He's got to be started for the Jazz, blah, blah, blah. And, I feel like this is something I wanted to, we recorded an episode of the JazzNation podcast earlier and we talked about this, but I think some Jazz fans maybe need to pump the brakes a little bit on Taylor Hendricks. And what I mean by that is that I think some Jazz fans are putting him so high up there that you're setting yourself up to be let down, right? Like unless he is like, I don't want to say all-star level, but let's just say, I'm just saying, like, you guys are pumping him so high up, and I get it. He's the 9th pick. He's a lottery pick. We're so excited. I think we need to calm down a little bit on it. We need to wait and see what he is, right? Let him prove himself. If he comes off the bench, that's totally fine. If he doesn't get the starter minutes, then whatever. It's fine. It doesn't mean anything less for him. Let him prove to all of us why the Jazz picked him at 9. Let him show what he's got, right? Maybe it's going to be one of those things, almost like a Walker Kessler was last year, and it's a total surprise, and within like a month of the season, we're like, this guy is great. I'm so excited to have him. Or in all reality, he's like majority of the rookies. It takes a couple time. It takes some time. Maybe it's like the OJ situation where he's got to spend a little bit of time with the stars and develop with them and gain the trust of the coaching staff and then get more minutes. We got to wait and see. I'm just saying, my advice to anyone watching this or anyone listening at some point, just take it easy on the Taylor Hendricks expectations, right? We're all excited. We can't wait to see what he's going to do, but just don't put him up here so you set yourself up for failure with him, right? Let him show it off. Let him prove to us and let's see what he's got. That's my whole point. If he doesn't start, it's not that big a deal. He can come off in order to have a successful team, you got to have good starters and you have to have a good bench, right? How awesome would it be for him to be like our next bench awesome leader guy, right? Maybe he's the next sixth man that is so awesome that we're just so excited. We got to wait and see. Let's just calm down. I know we're very excited for it all. Just relax. Hendricks will still get plenty of time to develop. Just remember, even though, I think a lot of fans, we only look at the gameplay, right? The game and stuff like that and go, well, he did bad in the game and such, blah, blah, blah. There's so much more stuff that goes on as far as development of things that none of us have any ideas about. And I'm not going to act like I have any idea. I've never been in an NBA gym, workout, practice. I don't know how they do that, but that's the point. There's so much more that goes on as far as developing a young player that none of us have any idea about. So I trust our coach, Will Hardy. I trust the assistants that he's bringing in. Let them develop this guy, and he'll show us what he's got, right? That was a super long way of saying, don't put him so high up here just to let yourself down. I really don't feel like Bryce, there's any expectations. I think when you're 28th pick, everyone's just like, okay, show us what you got. Even with Keyonte George, I feel like most Jazz fans, the vibes that I'm getting is that most people are going to wait and see with him as well. Please do the same thing with Taylor Hendricks. Just please calm down. Another thing that's kind of interesting. So right after the draft, Utah Jazz GM Justin Zanuck spoke with the media, and he talked about how there was a slight injury with Taylor Hendricks. And honestly, I think one of the media members asked him about Summer League if the guys were going to play, and he didn't really 100% come out like typically, from past interview things like I've watched these things, the GM's usually like, yeah, he'll play. We're just blah, blah, blah. This one, it was kind of more of like, we're going to, wait and see. There was not 100% confirmation of them playing. Now, Keyonte George, as far as I know, has zero medical issues. I don't think there's any chance that he doesn't play. Even in Salt Lake Summer League, I think he'll play in both of them. Now, Taylor Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh, they both have some injuries going on right now. Now, in their media availability thing they did today, both of them said they feel fine. Both of them say they're ready to go. Taylor Hendricks even said he wants to play in Summer League, but he didn't basically say, yeah, I'll be there. He can't make that. That's a team decision that has to make that, but he would like to play. But he did admit that, or confirm, I guess, that he did have an injury, and he said that he tweaked his hamstring. He actually didn't work out for the Jazz because he had tweaked his hamstring and this was before they were supposed to have workouts. So, but he says he's feeling great, feeling good. He would like to play in Summer League. Bryce Sensabaugh in his media thing was kind of, when someone asked him about injuries, and he says he's feeling good, things like that, but just the vibe didn't seem like he was ready to play now. Did any of you right now that are in the live stream or the chat, did you watch the media stuff today? Did you get a vibe at all from him that he was maybe hinting that he wasn't going to be ready for Summer League? I mean, Summer League starts next week, guys, like next Tuesday, like 1 week from today, basically, is when Salt Lake Summer League starts. And so if I was a betting man, let's go back to the betting stuff here. If I was a betting man, I would bet, yes, Keyonte George does play in Salt Lake Summer League and then Vegas Summer League. But I would not put money on Taylor Hendricks playing in Salt Lake Summer League or Bryce Sensabaugh playing in Salt Lake Summer League. Then speaking about Vegas Summer League, I could see then Taylor Hendricks playing in Vegas Summer League just because, there's more competition there, more eyes. Maybe the Jazz would prefer him playing in that one, but maybe they limit his playing time. But I couldn't see Bryce not playing in that one either, which sounds crazy. But obviously the more important thing is not to get them more hurt in this. I mean, Vegas Summer League or Summer League in general is awesome and all, but you don't want to send your player there to get more hurt. So we shall see. Let's take a look at this comment here. Someone made a comment, can't remember where, that Hendricks' debut would be Seattle, which is preseason. Yeah. Oh, didn't mention that too. This is so weird, by the way. So it's weird because the Jazz haven't announced it, but the Jazz have a preseason game officially. Let's pull up this info here real quick so I make sure I get it right for everybody. So the Utah Jazz will be playing the LA Clippers on Tuesday, October 10th in Seattle at the Climate Pledge Arena. Those tickets are on sale, by the way, if you're in the Seattle area or might make a trip up there. But it is a preseason game, but that's pretty cool. Game up in Seattle and stuff like that. But yeah, that's, as far as I know, that's the first official date, a preseason game date for the Jazz that I'm aware of. But the weird part of it is that, so it's been, I think it was like 2, maybe 3 days ago at this point that kind of news came out and was officially announced that this game was going to happen in Seattle. And the NBA made an announcement on it. I even saw like the mayor of Seattle made an announcement about it, and so did the Clippers. But the Jazz never did anything. I didn't see them post anything about it on social media. And then today, the tickets go on sale today. Again, all those other places, the Clippers, the Seattle folks, they're all posting saying, hey, tickets are on sale. Get them now before it's sold out. The Jazz haven't said a word about it. That is so weird to me. Like, that's strange. This is like, to at least not say one thing at all. Like, okay, maybe you didn't say it the day they announced it, which is still, that's very strange. Because for anyone that doesn't know, like with PR stuff, marketing things, usually, all these teams got to be on the same page. Yes, they agree. We're going to play on this date. This is when we'll do the announcement. Perfect. Awesome. Jazz get the same, flyer and information just like the Clippers do, just like the people in Seattle do. This day at this time is when we're going to allow it. Okay, boom, it's out there. We're all on the same page. But the Jazz didn't post anything. That blows my mind. And somebody that does, communication stuff, social media stuff, posting stuff, things like that, those are one of those things to me blows my mind that the Jazz haven't said a word about that. Like, shout out to the Jazz social media teams and the PR and the marketing team. I know they do a lot of good work and stuff like that. Their coverage of the draft has been cool and stuff like that. But I feel like they've really dropped the ball on this one, and that's kind of surprising to me. But hopefully they'll figure this out soon. Let all their Jazz fans know, because I appreciate all you that check my pages out, but the reach that I have compared to the actual Jazz page is very minimal. So if you have friends or family that live in Seattle, please share the post about the game going into Seattle and let them know. Tuesday, October 10th, preseason game, the Utah Jazz in Seattle take on the Clippers. Tickets are now on sale today. So there was that post the comment from Jordan there saying that maybe when they see Taylor play, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Would not be surprised about that. And I know there's going to be people that are pissed that Taylor is not playing in Summer League. But it's Summer League, folks. It's not that big a deal. It's really not that big a deal. Here's the big deal that I think Summer League is for. Summer League is a big deal for this year. Tongue twister there. Is Ochai Agbaji. Ochai is going to be playing in Summer League this year. And I feel like this is going to be a great time for him to show to Jazz coaching staff, to Jazz fans, to national media that, hey, you saw me toward the end of the season, what I can do, and you guys got impressed. Well, now check out. So let's see if he took it to another level. It's been a few months now since the Jazz last played. He's had time to, relax and then start working out again. I am sure that the Jazz coaching staff have told him what they would like to see from him in Summer League and, improve on. Now it's time for him to show it off. So I'm really intrigued to see what his game is and stuff like that. Are any of you guys watching right now going to Summer League? Either next week for Salt Lake Summer League or Vegas Summer League? If you've never been to Vegas Summer League, by the way, you should really check it out. I went once. It's one of those things that you can do once and experience it. If you can do it all the time, that's cool, but you should at least experience once. It's pretty awesome. You get down to Vegas. It's on the UNLV campus. They have 2 games going on at once. There's just so many, players that come in. Obviously, there's the players that are already there, and sometimes they'll come out in the crowd and watch other games. But there's players from the actual team that show up. Obviously, the coaches are there, and then there's just all these if you're into sports podcasting and media and stuff, there's so many of them that are just around. It's just awesome to see them around. So it's a very awesome experience if you can ever go to that. But be warned, it gets hot as hell. Vegas in July is hot. But if you're not going to that, next week, let's pull up the exact date, shall we? So we sound like professionals here. Salt Lake Summer League kicks off next week. It'll be July 3rd, 5th, and 6th at the Delta Center. It'll be the official first event at the Delta Center. It actually officially becomes the Delta Center again on July 1st. So a little fun fact there for you. But if you are going to Salt Lake Summer League, make sure and keep an eye out for me and my podcast host, Will Wonder. We'll be out there on the outside of the arena before the games doing some interviews. Just want to talk to folks, get some content for the pages, but also be doing some trivia. So if you feel like you're a smart Jazz fan, come test yourself with us and We shall see how smart you are or not. All right. Well, let's. One other thing that I thought was kind of interesting. So, the last couple of days there was a trade that went on between Memphis, Boston, and Wizards. Marcus Smart is going to end up with the Grizzlies in Memphis, and Porzingis is going to the Celtics. Now, apparently, the Jazz, if Porzingis had declined his option, because he was in the kind of same boat as Jordan Clarkson to opt in or opt out, if he had opted out, I guess the Jazz were like, everyone knew that they were going to be like the number one team to go in and possibly try and sign him. But I guess if I've read this article, and if I understand it correctly, long story short, Porzingis did not want to come to Utah. So when he heard about that and saw that, he said, you know what? Get me to Boston. I choose Boston out of all this. So for me, I'm glad he didn't want to come to Utah, because I don't think that would have been a good. I'm sorry, I'm not big on Porzingis. I know he had a pretty decent year last year for Washington and such. Cool, he had one good year for a team that was not doing so hot. I would not have been hot on that. Just like I was not hot on the French dude in the draft, I would not have been hot on Porzingis coming to Utah. So very glad that worked out. All right, let's quickly go end today's here, seeing some of these comments here. Thanks so much to all of you that are watching the live stream right now and leave some comments. If you watch the live stream on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, you can leave comments and it'll show up here for me. So I see one here from Jason saying, great trade. John Collins for Gain, single round pick. Good job, Ainge. Remember, guys, it's not just Ainge. Justin Zanuck deserves some of the praise too. But yes, it was a really good trade. Joshua here kept all 3 picks and said no to Whitmore. So I think he might be throwing it in my face, throwing a little shade maybe. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I can't be right about everything, but I try my best. Let's see. Jordan here. We might have the best top to bottom front court in the NBA. Kessler, Markkanen, Collins, KO, Hendricks. It's going to be interesting to see if Kelly Olynyk actually is on the team. I mean, his contract is very tradable, but now that Rudy Gay is not going to be on the team, it would be interesting to see if they ask Kelly Olynyk to maybe step into that vet leadership role and stuff like that. I feel like Kelly Olynyk would really help out Taylor Hendricks. So I kind of hope they keep him around. His contract's very, very good too, cheap for the value there. So let's check out this comment from Chris. I'm stoked about our draft picks plus the Collins trade today. I agree. Very stoked on that. Thanks so much for the comment there. Let's check out this one from Blake. Surprised by all picks. Really? By all of them? Interesting. I don't know. If you can leave me a quick comment, let me know, Blake. Why were you surprised by that? By the picks? I wasn't very surprised by those. Let's check out. Let's see. Benjamin here says, when looking at the big board, it seems the Jazz were going to get him or Nick Smith. I'm assuming you're talking about Keontae George at 16. But yeah, I can agree with that. There definitely was a lot of buzz about the Jazz and George there. Let's check out this. Jordan here, leave another comment. I believe this is in talking about Jazz picking Bryce. He's a scorer that we haven't had so far, as someone who just gets to his spots and his size and shooting ability. He reminds me of a Tillman with the Grizzlies. Okay, interesting. I guess we'll see on that. Let's see. Got a couple another. I think this is in regards to what I was saying about Porzingis created smoke and forced the Celtics' hand, and we took whichever was left. Yeah. Hey, I smoke it up there and go to the Celtics. That's totally fine. And looks like our last comment here. Excited about the trade and the draft picks. I can totally understand that. Well, let's end on that high for today's Jazz Nation Daily. Again, if you never watched this or seen before, these are available. There's not really a set time that I do these. Sometimes I'll do them early in the morning, sometimes later in the afternoon like this, but just each day I like to come on and talk about the new Jazz news of the day. So I'll be back tomorrow. If you miss the live stream now, it'll be available on our YouTube page, also on the podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor FM. Just Google search Jazz Nation Podcast. You'll find it there. YouTube, just search Jazz Nation. You'll find us on there. Thanks so much to everyone, by the way, that tuned in to the live stream broadcast of the draft night there. The guys held it down for me on that night. I heard it was really fun and everyone had a good time. So thanks so much for tuning into that. If you have not watched the Walker Kessler interview yet, you should watch it. It's available on our YouTube page. Got a lot of positive feedback on that. Thanks so much to everyone that's already watched it, left a comment. But the YouTube page is doing really good. I appreciate everyone that's tuned into our videos and watched those. Again, just search on YouTube, JazzNation. You'll find us on there. But if you need the links to any of our stuff, whether it's the YouTube page, the Facebook page, the Twitter page, the Instagram, the TikTok, the blah, 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 all the links for the pages can be found in one simple spot. Just go to linktree.com/JazzNation News and you'll find the links for all our pages on there. One final thing, by the way, I've talked about in the past a couple of episodes and stuff, the Patreon page. It's Patreon, patreon.com/JazzNation. To those that are already on there and paid, I appreciate it so much. If you haven't yet, I'm working so hard. I'm trying to get some more interviews on there. I got to tell you, I've had interviews lined up and then all of a sudden something comes up and we had to reschedule and it's rescheduling. So I'm working so hard to try and get some more interviews lined up. So if you haven't checked out our Patreon page and if you want to try and figure out a way to help support all the work that I do for the Jazz Nation page here, that's the best way to do it. Patreon.com/JazzNation. It's $6 a month and it would really help me out to support and things like that. Check it out. And if you can, subscribe, please. Thanks so much to everyone for checking in and your comments here. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day and bye-bye.